Welcome to the Penny Z Show, where you get to learn how real people overcame real issues. Get ready to take notes and, most importantly, take action. Here's your host, Penny Z.
Hello, everyone. This is Penny Z with the Penny Z Show. We are excited to transform lives one life at a time with topics that are real, relevant, and relatable. Today, we are on a series called Overcoming I'm Not Enough. Many of you have heard other guests on my show that have shared their story, their vulnerability, and what it was for them to be able to have tools and techniques in their life to overcome I'm not enough, to be able to become the person they are today. Today, I have a special guest, Joya Gallasch. Did I say that correctly?
Gallasch.
Gallasch. She is a healing facilitator, a gentle guide, a self-love activist, and a deep diver. Joya, 17 years of dark night of the soul, which also includes sexual abuse, a recent wildfire, and a near-death experience taught Joya one thing. The only stability is to be found in the heart embodied through self-love. Isn't that so important? As a coach, mentor, and retreat leader, she has shared the message of love in international programs on purpose, transformation and femininity, empowerment for many, many years. Well, for as many as over 25 years, as a matter of fact. She empowers women to blossom into their uniqueness and voice their gifts by clearing the muck that keeps them stuck. I love that, muck that keeps them stuck. It's easy to remember. She encourages authenticity, self-care, and softening. Joya's 25 years of healing arts education and her former entertainment background as an actress, writer, and radio host create playful and magic at her Experience live events. She also has live events with her coaching programs. She is the founder of Women Uplift and the co-founder of The Studio Inc., Ha, and Capture Film Inc. Hopefully she'll tell us more about that. Please welcome to the show, Joya.
Hello, I'm so excited and so honored to be a guest on your show, Penny. Thank you for having me.
Sure, it's wonderful to have you, and I'm so excited to hear more about your backstory and your history as well. Joya, before we get into your story, is there anything else you would like to share with our audience? Obviously, I don't know everything about you, and I don't necessarily claim to be able to read everything from your fantastic bio. So I'd like to give our guests an opportunity to share something if there's anything else that you would like to share with our listeners.
I'm good. I know there could be so many more details. I like what you shared. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Thanks for helping us craft that. We really appreciate that. So Joya, as you've heard and we've talked about prior to the show, we're in a series called Overcoming I'm Not Enough. All of us have some kind of story in our life that, whether it's for a moment or for a season or for several years, struggle with that. And what I found is that in sharing our vulnerability and sharing our stories, we're not alone and we're able to help others work through their I'm not enough story. So would you be so kind in sharing one of your stories with us today?
Yes, I'd love to. Actually, when I read the question, I was like, my God, there have been so many in my life. And, the one that was probably the deepest and the most powerful and left the biggest residue of this story, I like it that you call it a story of I'm not enough, was experiencing sexual abuse when I was a child. Because somehow I got to witness or see that it kind of carried over and carried on into many years and many parts of my life. And I want to say it probably surfaced the strongest when I experienced my second miscarriage, because not only was there already kind of the sense of, possibly I'm not enough. And then when you actually see the heartbeat of your child, and then literally after the doctor's appointment, within hours, something happens in your belly and there's all this pain. And then, weeks later, you I had to let go of this spirit or this being. I don't know, don't even know what to precisely call it. That sent me into such a negative spiral of not enough, and also feeling like I'm a woman and I'm not able to offer, this being a home in my belly and carry it to terms. And that's when that I'm not enough story got so, fully activated.
Absolutely. Well, first off, obviously, we're very sorry to hear about the loss in your life and the challenges that you went through in two different short messages that you shared with the sexual abuse, which is a difficult thing. But unfortunately, there are people out there, and there are listeners, I'm sure, unfortunately, that have experienced that. So I want to thank you for being vulnerable, and thank you for talking to us about this, because I know that there'll be somebody out there, and probably many people, that your story, not only with your sexual abuse and how you were able to cope with that, but also with the loss of your child and the miscarriage. So would you mind sharing a little bit more around that? When you were going through that, what were some of the additional feelings that you had, and how did you start healing from that? What's some advice would you help with people who've experienced what you've experienced?
Well, it's kind of interesting because obviously sexual abuse is a different experience that goes when it happens to you so young. It goes so deep. And it makes you also wonder, am I worthy? Am I worthy of this life? And why did this happen to me so young? And then, of course, the miscarriage is another piece where I know so many women don't share it and talk about it. So what I discovered in terms of emotions and feelings was they were actually quite similar, although both of them are different experiences. But there was a sense of powerlessness, and then definitely of helplessness, and also hopelessness, and just as if somebody stripped you of tools tools that help you in life to thrive and to I personally don't like the word survive. I'd rather always use thrive. So there was obviously, there was powerlessness, hopelessness, helplessness. Then there was definitely tremendous amounts of anger.
I can imagine. Absolutely.
Like, why did this happen to me in both situations? And then, of course, tremendous sadness and grief. And one of the ways I have personally learned to heal and to be with big or heavy duty experiences like that is by feeling it all. I even have that on my website. It's part of my actually my personal mantra: feel to heal, and then shift to uplift. Because when we feel it, doesn't have, the emotion doesn't have to find a place in an organ or somewhere in the body where it gets to hide. But I'm here. I'm offering my time, my presence, my awareness, and also my courage. And I say, okay, here I am. So if I, for instance, look at the grief, I would just feel it in my heart. I would ask in my body, is it only in my heart, or is it in another? Obviously, with these two experiences, it was big time in my belly, in my uterus. So I would connect with these areas and spend time simply feeling it. So that is one of my favorite and maybe one of my most powerful tools, because it's really, you don't even have to go see a therapist. You can do it yourself.
Mm-hmm. But it's important, like you had mentioned earlier, it's important to realize that you're not alone and you're not the only one who experiences it. How do you suggest, because this is a difficult topic for people to share, whether it's unworthiness or feeling shame, feeling anger, not sure, wondering if people are going to believe you in one of the cases, obviously. How do you recommend for people to look for those safe places and for looking for those opportunities to seek help and to start the healing process, which is really going through all kind of like the what I'm experienced when you have a loss of someone, you have a death, you have to go through the cycle of, the emotional cycle. This is different circumstances, but it's still going through that emotional cycle that you're recommending. What do you suggest to people to reach out? How did you reach out, or how do you recommend or coach people to seek that help for those deep hurts?
Well, number one, in the work that I offer, I do that. And as another suggestion, I definitely would see, is there anybody amongst your closest friends that you feel so safe with that you could ask, would you sit with me? I'm not looking for advice, no fixing problem. I just would like to be listened to, or, can you hold like a safe container for me where I just share and also see if I can access some emotions. And then, of course, there are many beautiful healing modalities. I mean, one of my favorite ones on my healing journey was family constellation, where you work with a facilitator, and you also work most of the time in a group of people, where if you have an issue, you would choose somebody in the group that would represent that issue. So it kind of it offers a little bit of a detachment. And I would say literally anything that helps you, any situation, any space, any person that helps you to connect to that deep emotion that needs to be felt, and that a person or a situation that makes you feel safe. And then you can take it from there, whatever happens in that moment.
And so in your healing practice, what you had mentioned just a moment ago to start doing some family healing, is there any recommendations that you have for people, just some thoughts, as well as, let's say someone's listening and they're in a situation right now where they need immediate help. They might be experiencing, the sexual abuse. Is there organizations or some other opportunities for people to reach out that you recommend? And obviously we want to encourage people to reach out to you, to seek your help, to seek your mentoring and your coaching. Are there other recommendations, let's say if you're doing a presentation or something like that you recommend for other people as well to reach out to?
Yeah, the interesting piece is I actually, until recently, for instance, I never reached out and worked with a therapist. So somehow, I guess because it is also my professional journey, I connected with the issue or the emotions or the vulnerability myself, because obviously by doing so, I learned the tools of how to be self-sufficient. I definitely would say a counselor or a therapist is a good place to reach out to, especially with sexual abuse. And I also have found some people, they're so afraid that they might get stuck in the darkness or, the negative emotion. So for some of my clients, I have recommended to write, because I find writing incredibly healing, because there's the white page, and the page I always call like my quiet listener, and I get to just write it out, whatever it is that I'm afraid of. And there's literally nobody there that could go like, really, or like, judge me. So using writing as a creative tool. I've also, because I come from that entertainment background, and creativity means so much to me, I have recommended to my clients to find a form of creative expression. And that could be painting, that could be singing, that could be, as I already mentioned, writing. And so it's literally like an opening, like a portal, or like a spigot that you're starting to open, so the pressure can start to release, and you find a creative way even to transform it.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. So with your work that you do and the live events that you do, what are some of the I'm trying to think of the word here, and I apologize. I'm just wanting to go a little deeper in how you overcame what you went through as far as getting into the feeling of the emotions. I'm trying to learn a little bit more of that myself, and so I'm not sure how to ask that question, but maybe you know the answer with me fumbling with a question to ask you. If you do through group or through your live, through individuals, if there's that deep healing that you go through that you were talking about earlier, I'd like you just to talk a little bit more about that. I'm fascinated, but I'm not quite sure how to ask the question.
Well, for instance, one process that I offer to my clients is called the light circle tool. And in that, I actually invoke a team of divine beings or beings from a higher realm. And I ask my clients, is there anybody that you actually believe in? And, some people come from the Muslim tradition, some come from the Christian tradition. So we bring in, let's say, Jesus Christ or Allah or whatever people feel comfortable with. And then I tell them to imagine that they're surrounded by these divine beings, which is like this beautiful circle of protection. And so I have them literally dwell in that experience, that they're protected, that they're safe, and that they're actually the focus, meaning that they're so enough and so important that in that very moment, being in the center of the light circle, they're number one. And that for many is already like, whoa, like mind blowing, because they feel like they've never experienced it, or they never allowed themselves to receive that attention and that light and that love. Because sometimes the problem can be as easy as a problem receiving, or an issue with allowing. And then, whatever the situation is that we are working with, I will then include that. We will invite that into the circle of light. And it's fascinating what shows up. So my processes are always very, very, very gentle, because I believe in gentleness and softness as an incredible remedy and a healing tool. And then also, obviously, I like to activate their creativity and their imagination. And so it's always astounding what actually comes through. And for many of the clients too, because they never gave themselves permission to approach a problem from that point of view, or even imagining that you can work with it in a playful way.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
is rather difficult to imagine. So what I find very, very important is that it's an experience. So it's not just here in the head. I'm thinking, I'm retelling my story, but it is about dropping into the body and then making a connection with the heart, opening up to a team of support, whoever that may be, and then trusting that all the healing tools and answers are actually in me or in you or in my clients. That is a fascinating process, and often quite effortless. And then, as almost like a simple byproduct, the emotions show up.
Absolutely. Thank you. That's exactly the kind of thing I was looking for. And that truly is amazing. And it is life-changing. I'll just share with you briefly, about a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago, I went through something similar but different. So I would just encourage all the listeners out there that, of course, we'll have Joya's information on our social media and website. She'll share with us more about that. But if you haven't gone through an experience like this, it is truly life-changing. Approximately 2 years ago, I was going through, or I identified one of my I'm not enough stories. And it was very similar, not a similar experience, but it was similar in the sense that I was feeling unworthy. I was feeling very invisible. And what I recognized is that I wasn't feeling good enough. And in my life, I really had not had very many compliments. And that number one, I should say, that I remembered or that I received, like what you just said. You have to be able to receive it in. And so we did this exercise around the room, and there was about 30 people in the room, and I had to stand in the group, and everyone had to go around and say, you know, a positive affirmation about me, something that described me, energetic, you know, fun, whatever it was that they felt around me. And I will have to tell you the experience, and thank goodness someone taped it. So I will encourage that if you don't tape it, or if you can encourage people, whether it's audio, video, or both with your experience. While I was going through this experience, I was shaking so bad that I could not hear what everybody was saying about me because I couldn't believe it to be true. And I was so worried that they were going to say bad things about me because that was my experience in life, because I'd been bullied and teased and other things growing up, that I didn't hear a word they said in the group. And so at the end, I was crying and shaking, and I felt a release because I knew an event had happened. But it wasn't for me until I went back and listened to the actual audio tape. And my exercise after that was to listen to it for 7 to 10 days every day, at least once a day, to be able to receive it, like what you said, and hear it. And so I am just so excited that you offer this kind of experience, because for me, it was truly life-changing. And so thank you for that. And for our listeners, get in touch with Joya, because it's an amazing experience. Whatever you and she create for you, creatively, as well as you know, having an emotional experience, it's truly amazing. So thank you for sharing that. Absolutely.
Thank you for sharing your story. And by the way, I always record my sessions too. So
very good.
So if they need to, if they wish to, they can listen to and they can look at it.
Absolutely. It saved me, because like I said, for me, and maybe everyone and everybody has a different experience. Some people are able to receive it at the moment of the event. And I was so scared. I mean, I can't even, I mean, my body just cringes right now when I think about going through that. But it was such an amazing event. And it was so, like you said, it was easy, and it was easy to release everything, but I had to go back and listen to it to receive it. So it's just so empowering. So amazing. So Joya, unfortunately, I could talk to you for a lot longer and hear more of your success, but we are getting close to the end of the show. And so I like to invite my guests to do two things at the end. First off, I'd like them to share any words of wisdom or anything that you would like to share with them in their empowerment journey and transformation journey. And then the second thing, of course, is how can they get a hold of you?
Yeah. Well, I'd like to share something practical, because I'm really into simplicity and practical tools. And so, beautiful listeners, if you feel yourself being locked, let's just say locked into a story, the story of not enough, what I also found very helpful is give that voice. And some people say, you know, it's the voice of the ego or the mind. Ask that voice, what's your name? And don't make it a big head thing. Listen to the very first name that shows up. And from there on, actually that voice has a name. And already by noticing and witnessing it, it starts to actually shrivel. And at the same time, you can, you know, when the voice and the story of not enough shows up, you can say, you know what? Enough of it. Thank you, Bert. Thank you. Mine, for instance, is called Jennifer. And a lot of times just being kind of strict with it and say, no, there's no time right now. Whoops, it might leave. So make it playful.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. Well, that's fantastic. You've given us several tools and techniques in order to help overcome I'm not enough stories, as well as difficult challenges in our life. So Joya, how can our listeners get in touch with you?
So it's through my website, www.womenuplift.com. womenuplift.com. And I also offer a beautiful free gift there, a book about self-love, very appropriate, that you can download as a way to get to know me even better. And then you can reach out, you know, there's a process. And if you need support or help, assistance, yes, please reach out to me.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so very much. It was a pleasure to have you on the Penny Z Show. I look forward to more conversations and more support with Joya. For those of you, we will have her contact information on our website, www.thepennyzshow.com. We will also promote her on all of our social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram. So please follow us, share us, like us. We are trying to reach and empower 1 million people's lives with our guests and helping people overcome their I'm not enough story. Thank you so much. And Joya, thank you again for being on the show today.
Thank you, Penny. An honor. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, everyone, thank you again and have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much for listening. If you want to hear more, including specific ways to empower yourself, go to thepennyzshow.com.